Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Emma Lefebvre, and today we are going to be reviewing a new palette from the company Lightwish. So let's take a look and jump in. Okay, so today I am looking at a new watercolor palette from a company called Lightwish. They are from the same brand suppliers as Paul Rubens. So I have been in contact with them for a bit, and they offered to send me their new artist grade watercolor palette of 48 colors. And they also included a watercolor journal that's 100% cotton cold press, which I'm really interested to see because, you know, I always want a more affordable watercolor paper that's 100% cotton. So we are going to take a look at this for sure. But I did want to take a look at the palette. So they actually had sent me a watercolor kit of theirs a little while ago. It's the same affiliate like brand. It's Lightwish. And they sent this to me, I think like a month ago. And I did not want to do a video on it because I tend to enjoy watercolors that I find are more accessible and easier for beginners. And the fact that it didn't have a palette to, you know, do color mixing kind of threw me off. Now, these pans are fairly large and have lots of watercolor in them, which is a bonus, and the fact that they are so big. And the quality is actually not bad at all. They are kind of nice. This one, while it's cracked, which it wasn't cracked before, they still work fine, and I can swatch them later for you guys. But I didn't want to review and do a video on something that I wasn't 100% sold on. The quality's fine, but I wouldn't recommend them for a beginner only because I like to have a palette to work with and something that's a bit more able or easier to transport. So wasn't my favorite, but then they did reach out again and they asked if I wanted to take a look at their 48 pan palette. And of course I said yes. So this is it. I'm gonna open it up. I haven't seen it yet. I actually haven't opened it, and usually I open things first because I can't wait. So it's a nice big purpley palette. Ugh. Very similar packaging to Paul Rubens with the cloth and the sturdy box. Nice purple tin, has the ring on the back. I don't know if people ever actually use this ring to hold it. I don't think I ever have or ever will, but there we go. Has a swatch card with all of the colors, pigment numbers, light fast rating, and transparency or like opaque rating, which is great. The one thing about Paul Rubens is that because it is a Chinese company, most things are written in Chinese. So the fact that this is all in English for me personally is really nice because I get to read all of the specs about it very, very easily. But I do love Paul Rubens paints as well. So I am going to kind of compare and see the difference between these versus Paul Rubens because I do love their palettes and their paints. So we have a nice swatch card here. Oh, cute. Oh, and it comes with a brush too. That's a nice bonus. Not a lot of these palettes come with a brush, or if they do, they come with those water brushes. You know, those cheap, I don't like water brushes, like at all. I don't know what kind of brush this is. I don't know if it's like real squirrel hair or synthetic or anything, but comes with a brush. Doesn't say what size or anything, but looks interesting. It's nice to have one. And then the colors. So we have 48. I just want to see how you remove the labels. Okay, so there's stickers, which again is nice. Has all of the specs on them again, which is great. So some people who like to swatch or keep the specs or like have them in a journal, it's nice to, you know, peel off the sticker and then place it in your sketchbook with your swatches. So we can do that. So now I am going to speed ahead because you don't need to see me swatch every single one in real time because that can get quite boring and overwhelming, but I will swatch them all and then tell you what I think. Looking at it aesthetically is actually really nice. The tin is really nice. The colors at first glance, I'm excited to test them out. There's an olive green. That's always one thing I always look for. Do they have my olive green? Love olive green. They have a nice array of pinks. I'm excited to swatch them out. But aesthetically, like, it looks really nice. So let's get in and test them out. Okay, so now that they're all unwrapped, this looks beautiful. I love a brand new palette. Look how appealing that is. Beautiful colors. All right, now I'm going to start swatching. So the card goes this way and then kind of just down the line. I'm going to start by wetting up my palette and then we'll get right into seeing how these colors look. Okay, so in case you didn't know, the reason why I spray it down first is it just helps activate the colors before you start swatching. All right, now let's swatch. Okay, so there we go. There are all the colors swatched. They are, at first glance, super pigmented, which is really nice, very easy to activate and, you know, start painting. One thing that I personally look for when I'm looking for watercolors are how easily they are activated. So how many kind of swipes do you need to get pigment up? I find that makes a huge difference. The second one is the way it dries. So some of these aren't dry yet, but ones that I find are poor quality are the ones that come off really chalky, where they look like there's just particles sitting on top, which I don't see with this. You might get some of that with some colors that are more mixed with a white, because white tends to be more transparent, and you might get a bit more of that chalky feel. But again, you can't really judge that on a swatch card, because swatch cards, while they are watercolor paper, they don't tend to be the best quality paper. So it doesn't really give the opportunity for the pigments to settle into the paper. So we are going to test out the sketchbook that they sent me. But at first glance, I do love the variety of colors. One thing I always find funny with palettes that have like 48 colors, it's like, how many different yellows do you need? I feel like yellow is the least used color for me, or at least varieties of yellow. All I need is like a good lemon yellow and like a cadmium yellow, but there's like 4 here, which are all different, but they are kind of the same. You know what I mean? They just feel like there's 4 of the same color. So I don't always get that. With the last Paul Rubens palette, the last 3 or 4 browns seem to all be the same as well. These have a nice variety of brown, which is great. I really love this kind of, it says umber, but it looks more like a burnt sienna to me, which I really enjoy. The pinks are really nice. You have one that's a bit more like kind of a mix of permanent rose and like opera rose, which is a nice like pink. And then you have like more of one that's a magenta, which is really nice. The violets look very similar. That's the only thing with these palettes, like I said, is you have so many colors you need to fill in this 48 slot that some of them tend to be, you know, doubles almost, it feels like. So I don't know. I don't know if it's useful to you or not, but again, things are going to mix differently, so maybe that also makes a difference. But I do enjoy the array of colors. I like this it's called turquoise deep, but it's like a baby blue almost. You don't see that in palettes. I kind of wish they had a lavender, because I'm really into lavender, but that can be so easily mixed with the colors that we have. So if I wanted to make a lavender, which is my color right now, all I'd have to do is take some white Then take some ultramarine, which I have to, the only other thing is I have to remember where each color is. Here's an ultramarine. Mix those two together and you get kind of that lavendery color, and a tad bit of purple. Again, I have to remember where I put the purple. And then you have like a lavender. It's super easy to mix. So it is beneficial when you have so many colors. You can mix any other color that you might not have. Now, the other thing I really look for in a palette, for me, which always feels like a deal breaker, are greens. Green is my favorite color. And I paint a lot of botanicals and flowers. And if there aren't good greens, I don't enjoy them. The only saving grace with this palette is that they have an olive green. I could easily mix an olive green. Hands down, easy peasy. You know, you mix a little bit of one of these greens with some orange or brown, you can get like an olive green very easily. But for convenience for myself, I use olive greens so much that I love the fact that they have an olive green in here, and it's kind of like a green gold, which I really like. The only thing I wish they did have, which they don't, is like some sort of deep, dark, kind of like pearline green, or even like a hooker's green dark. They have a hooker's green, what's it, Brillite, which I don't love. And then they have like these three greens that I feel, I don't know, these two, emerald green deep and malachite green, seem very similar to me. These two, hooker's green, Brillite, and tree green, seem very similar. Again, I can use those to mix the greens that I want fairly easily. That's not going to be an issue, but for convenience, I would have loved some sort of, you know, deep green on it, like just for convenience. So I think I just said that twice. It's fine. You can take that and mix a little bit of purple in there. See, even there's kind of like an olivey green. Maybe even mix a little bit of, is that the emerald? Nope, that's not the emerald. That's not what I want either. There. Like a darker purpley, that's not it either. I don't know what I'm doing. I have to learn where the colors are. That's the other thing, is you have to memorize where all the colors are, or you're gonna have to refer back to them. And I am actually really good with that with my palette. My huge palette, my ultimate palette, I have kind of memorized where everything is. And when I do that, I can do the appropriate mixtures that I want. That's gonna bug me now, because I do wanna do the appropriate mixture to get this dark green. They're very pigmented. Like, I really don't need a lot of, you know, color to get where I want to go with this, which is really nice. Like, it just picks it up so well. Like, look at that dark green. Wish I could kind of show you. That's not that dark. Okay, well, you know what I mean. This isn't a mixing lesson. I am really good at mixing, but this is not it. Okay, so yeah, so that's the palette. That's the palette of colors. Now, you can swatch all you like, but you're not going to really know the true fate of whether you like a palette or not, or feel the, you know, good energy from it, unless you paint something with it. So now I'm going to open up this sketchbook, and we are going to test it out with these paints. Like I said before, I'm always looking for a really good 100% watercolor paper. They can be hard to come by in the fact that they can be very expensive. And they're just not all papers are alike. So I'm excited that this is a journal. So I'm curious as to how it's going to feel. I'm just going to take a look. That's not watercolor paper. Okay, so this is the watercolor paper. It seems fairly smooth. I know you can't really see. There is a bit of texture to it. I don't think you guys can see that. But there is a bit of texture to it, which is nice. But you can only, it kind of reminds me of Etcher Lab paper, but just the front. The back seems a little bit smoother, which could be an interesting part of that. So let's just get to testing it out and see. Okay, so usually when I'm testing out paper, I like to do a landscape painting because I find you use a ton of water, and it really puts the paper to the test to see how it buckles or how it takes that amount of water. Does the pigment and the water actually seep into the paper, which is what you want, stay wet longer, or does it tend to sit on top? So that's what I like to paint when I'm testing out new paper. So that's what I'm gonna start with. And then I'm probably gonna do like a quick little floral thing because I also enjoy seeing how that works out as well with color bleeds and the wet on wet technique and all that fun stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna start by, I'm gonna paint just like a really simple landscape. Like I don't wanna do too much. So I'm gonna start by wetting the paper. If you are painting a landscape, I usually say tape off the edges just to keep a nice little border. It helps keep it a bit more flat. I'm not doing that obviously. I'm just gonna make it loose. So I'm gonna start just by wetting this up, and then I'm gonna do kind of like a sunset-y color, and I need my swatch card here so I remember which color is where. All right, so I wanna start off kind of with like a yellowy color. And like I said, like I didn't even pre-wet these paints right now. Like this is a different day of filming, and it just activates really quickly, which is a really nice bonus. I find paints that you have to activate or spend time activating, or they seem a little chunky or something, they're just not worth it. They just don't do as well. Okay, and then I want a little bit of like a pink. Where are my pinks? I gotta remember where everything is. I think this is a pink. Yeah. Like I barely touched it. I'm just gonna go back and forth and have it blend into that magenta color. Like that. I'm gonna bring it up into a blue. So far, just looking at the paper, it's actually seeping quite nicely into, I'm actually gonna just use this color because I'm curious. It's seeping into the paper quite nicely actually, which is a nice change. Like I've had many papers that the colors just sit on top, when the water just sits on top, and that's not what you want. This seems to be doing its job, which is really, really nice because like I said, cotton papers can get quite expensive and hard to come by when you find one that you really like. So far, so good. I mean, I can't say too much just yet, but I mean, we're off to a good start, I think. The colors sitting nicely in the paper, not on top. And those paints are activating really nicely. Just want a subtle little sunset kind of deal here. Okay, and then I want to add a little bit of clouds. Okay, this is the hardest part, is just remembering where everything is. I want a little bit of gray. Maybe with a little bit of blue. Just a little bit. Now it is drying a little bit fast, but it's also really fast it's hot in my office right now, which affects it. That happens. Grab a little bit of pink, do a bit of pink cloud here. So it is drying a little bit faster, but that I think is the climate in my office, because I can feel how hot it is in here. I'm gonna try and do a little bit more wet on wet after to see really how long the paper will stay wet. Okay, I don't want to do too many clouds. I don't love this yellow for that. It's fine. I'm just going to leave it. Okay. Then I'm going to do some greenery. I'm trying to think of what color I want to use. I want almost like a purpley. That's not purple. Is that purple? That's kind of purple. A little bit of blue, like faded mountains in the background. So just like that. And then it's going to go into green. Okay, and then I'm going to start off with my olive. I think this is olive. Nope, that's not olive. I'm really sucking at figuring out which color is which. There we go. Yeah, like an olive green. just going to bring that down. I'm going to mix it a little bit with the olive and like the regular tree green just to get a darker green. Like that. And then I want a darker green up front. So I'm going to grab this and a little bit of purple, a little bit more of that green. So I can make that darker green like I was trying to do earlier. I don't know, I think it looks nice. I am enjoying the paper. I'm gonna do a little bit of tree back here in the distance. I think the paper is actually quite nice. It's not the best 100% watercolor paper that I've ever used, but it's not bad, especially in a sketchbook. I find I haven't really found a great sketchbook where it has the same quality paper as, say, like Arches or whatever, but this is actually not too bad, and it gets the job done. It's actually quite nice. I like it. Okay, so just like a simple little landscape there. And now just for fun, I'm going to do some flowers because that's my jam. Okay, so one of the things I forgot to try out was the brush that it comes with. So I'm going to do my florals with this. So first it's nice and stiff, so I got to release that glue. But I tend to not use brushes that are soft like these ones. So we're going to see how that goes. So I actually had to cut the video because I did do florals and then I realized it wasn't recording properly. So I took it out. But one nice thing about this sketchbook is that it has those like perforated edges, so you can just like tear nicely out of your sketchbook if you want to get rid of a page, which sometimes I do, and sometimes I will ruin my sketchbook if it doesn't have that kind of, I don't know, that edge where you can just easily rip it. So yeah, that was nice. Okay, so now let's try some florals because that's my thing. All right, so I'm going to grab some pink. And the brushes that look like these tend to be, like I said, I don't know if it's like a synthetic animal hair, you know what I mean? I have no idea. But they tend to be a lot softer and they hold a lot more water. So you're gonna wanna keep that in mind if you are using this. I am losing a bristle, so I don't know how that's gonna go. But overall, so far the sketchbook's not bad. It's not great. I know this just looks like a blob, but I'm trying to lay down a shape first and then I'm gonna add some darkness to it. But it's not bad. As this one dried, it didn't have the watercolor seep into it as much as I would have liked. And I don't know if that's the watercolor or the paper. So I might do a quick test on some of my really good paper just to see if it's the watercolor or if it's the paper. But you know what I mean? For an affordable palette, it's not bad. Like I say for beginners, like use what you can afford. Don't break the bank trying to get all the best supplies. Yes, there is quite a benefit to using good supplies because there is a little bit less frustration. But I mean, if you're just learning to dabble with watercolor and you're just trying to figure the whole thing out, I always say there's no, I'm trying to remember where everything is, what color, just want to get a little bit of darker. I say there's no problem with getting a more affordable palette, and something that has tons of colors just like this is actually really great for beginners. I am planning to go more in depth with that specifically of what to get for beginners, because there's two ways you can go with that, with a palette like this or, you know, another way, but I will explain all that another time. But for testing out purposes, it's not bad. I don't love the brush just because this is not the type of brush I typically use. It's just too soft for what I do. And again, for beginners, I find a nicer, like snappier brush is always a little bit easier to manipulate. Now I'm getting a little bit of like weird edges here. I don't know if that's the paper or if that's the paint again. I am gonna just finish this quickly and then I will quickly test out for you this on a different paper, just to double check, because I want to make sure I'm giving you guys an accurate review. But yeah, so let me just finish this quickly. I'm not enjoying this brush. It's too soft for me. But yeah, let me do this quickly and then I will test it out on some other paper. Okay, so there's the finished piece. It's drying a little weird. I don't know. Okay, let me just quickly test this out on different paper because I have a feeling it's the paper. It's not blending as well. It's sitting on top, but it might be the paint. So let me just, I have some of the Academy watercolor paper that I absolutely love. I did stop using this brush because I just don't enjoy it at all. I find these are good for like big washes and backgrounds because they hold a lot of water, but like florals and stuff, just not, doesn't do it for me. So let me just try and do the same kind of flower on this paper. So I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but I'm gonna skip to the end so you guys don't have to watch this. And I'll let you know if it's the paper or if it's the paint. Okay, so on the other paper, it did work a lot better. This is not a great painting by any means. I don't know what I was doing, but I just wanted to kind of test out some florals. I hate the roses. I don't know where I was going with this. This is not how I usually do roses, but I was just playing around. Don't like either of them, but for testing the paper, it definitely worked better on the Academy watercolor paper. So the paper in the sketchbook is not my favorite cotton watercolor paper. It works fine for doodling, but I wouldn't create like a masterpiece on this paper in the sketchbook by any means. I feel like it doesn't do justice for the watercolors. The watercolors are actually nice when used on better paper. Otherwise, they kind of just sit on top and they look a little odd. So the watercolors worked really well on this. Very, very nice, great affordable palette. I do think this is a really nice option for people who are looking for a palette with lots of colors, especially for beginners. Lots of opportunities or in areas to mix. There's some really fun colors in here. And yeah, so that's kind of my review of the Lightwish palette and the sketchbook. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a great day, guys. Bye.